The tranquility of the International Space Command Center was shattered when the long-range sensors blared an unexpected warning. Red lights flashed as the alarm echoed through the halls. Captain Marcus Steele, with his gaze fixed on the main screen, watched as unknown blips materialized at the edge of the solar system. "Report." Steele's voice was calm but carried the weight of imminent danger. Lieutenant Ramirez, his hands flying over the console, responded swiftly. "Multiple unidentified objects have entered the system, sir. They're not responding to our hails." Steele turned to his communications officer. "Keep trying, and get me the defense secretary on the line, now." As the crew scrambled, Admiral Jacobs walked in, his expression grim. "Marcus, what's the situation?" "We may have a first contact scenario, but nothing friendly," Steele replied, his eyes never leaving the screen. "Their trajectory suggests they're heading straight for Earth." Jacobs nodded. "I've authorized DEFCON 2. Ready the orbital defenses and prepare ground troops for possible engagement." "Yes, sir," Steele acknowledged, then turned to his tactical officer, Commander Franklin. "Let's get those defense platforms online. I want every gun ready to fire the moment I give the word." Franklin, a veteran of space warfare, nodded solemnly. "Defense systems will be armed in 5 minutes. We'll give them a warm welcome." Steele watched the alien fleet approach, each vessel ominously silent and bristling with unknown technology. "Any luck with communications?" he asked. "No, sir. There's complete radio silence from the incoming ships," replied Sergeant Collins, frustration evident in his voice. Jacob stepped closer to the screen, analyzing the data. "They could be using a form of communication we can't intercept. We should assume they're hostile until proven otherwise." Steele agreed. "Prepare all personnel for combat. This could be the fight of our lives." Minutes felt like hours as the alien ships continued their relentless advance towards Earth. Then, as the first ship entered orbit, it released a barrage of what appeared to be advanced missiles. The command center was thrown into chaos. "Evasive maneuvers," Steele barked. "Activate point defense systems." The room vibrated with the sound of the orbital defense platforms returning fire. Explosions dotted the sky as some of the incoming missiles were intercepted, but too many continued their deadly descent. Steele clenched his fists. "Damage report." "We've got impacts in multiple locations, North America, Europe, and Asia. Significant casualties reported," Franklin announced, his voice tense. "We need a counteroffensive now, Admiral," Steele urged, turning to Jacobs. Jacobs was already on it. "I'm authorizing the use of kinetic bombardments. Target their main fleet. We can't let them get another volley off." As the orders were relayed, Steele watched the battle unfold, knowing the fate of humanity might well rest on the decisions made in the next few minutes. The screens showed their counterattack launching, the tension palpable. "Sir, we have impact," Ramirez shouted. "Direct hits on the lead alien ship." Steele felt a brief surge of triumph, quickly suppressed. "Keep the pressure on, launch all fighters, and bring our satellite lasers to bear. If they want Earth, they'll have to pay in blood." The command center staff worked feverishly, coordinating Earth's defenses against the alien threat. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Steele knew this was only the beginning. Whatever intentions these aliens had, humanity would stand firm, fight hard, and, if necessary, strike back even harder. The war for Earth had begun. The night sky over Earth's major cities transformed into a chaotic light show of explosions and descending debris. In the International Space Command Center, the tension was palpable as Captain Marcus Steele and his team monitored the relentless advance of the Thalna fleet. "Sir, they've breached our orbital defenses. Ground forces are engaging, but the enemy's advancing quickly," reported Commander Franklin, his voice betraying his concern over the unfolding situation. Steele clenched his jaw. "Evacuate civilian populations in the affected areas. We need to buy time to regroup and strategize." Admiral Jacobs, overseeing the defensive operations, turned to his communications officer. "Get me updates on all fronts. I want to know our status every minute." The large screens displayed the rapid movements of the Thalna ships as they descended into Earth's atmosphere, launching smaller assault crafts that began to swarm major urban centers. Steele watched, his heart sinking as the reports came in of cities falling under the alien onslaught. In the war room, Dr. Miles Bennett, a tactical analyst, approached Steele with a tablet showing troop movements. "Captain, we're seeing a pattern in their landings. They're targeting our military bases and research facilities first." Steele nodded, analyzing the data. "They're trying to cripple our ability to fight back, set up a defensive perimeter around the remaining bases. We need those operational if we're going to stand any chance." Outside, the sky was lit by the continuous exchange of firepower. Sergeant Collins, stationed at an anti-air battery, shouted commands to his unit, coordinating their fire against an incoming wave of Thalna fighters. "Steady, team. Aim for their engines." Back in the command center, Steele received a direct communication from one of his field commanders in Europe. "Captain Steele, this is Lieutenant Harper. We've established a defensive line around the Geneva facility, but we're heavily outnumbered. Maintain your position, Lieutenant. Reinforcements are en route. Hold that line at all costs," Steele commanded, his voice firm despite the grim prospects. As Steele ended the call, Jacobs approached with a grave expression. "Marcus, our satellite networks are being jammed. We're blind in several sectors. We need to switch to ground-based communications. Get our tech teams to reroute everything. We can't afford to lose touch with our forces," Steele responded quickly, adjusting to the rapidly changing battlefield dynamics. Meanwhile, in a makeshift command post in New York, Captain Johnson was leading a counter-assault against a Thalna ground force. The urban warfare was brutal, with humans and aliens exchanging fire amid the ruins of the city. "Push forward," Johnson yelled, leading his squad through the devastated streets, exploiting every opportunity to push the aliens back. The day turned to night, and the fighting continued unabated. Steele, back at the command center, received a series of reports detailing significant human casualties, but also some small victories. The human spirit, it seemed, was not easily broken. As the first wave of the invasion concluded, Steele and his team were left staring at a world map dotted with conflict zones. "We've lost a lot today," Steele admitted to Jacobs, "but we've also learned. Tomorrow, we fight smarter, hit harder." Jacobs nodded in agreement, weary but resolute. "They've brought the war to us, but we're not defeated yet. We'll give them a fight they'll never forget." Despite the heavy losses, the resolve of Steele and his team solidified under the pressure. The battle for Earth was far from over, and humanity would continue to defend its home, no matter the cost. The invasion was just the beginning, and the will to fight was stronger than ever. In the underground complex beneath what used to be Denver, Captain Marcus Steele surveyed the gathered remnants of Earth's defense forces and the ragtag groups of civilians who had escaped the Thalna onslaught. The atmosphere was tense, charged with the fear and determination of a cornered species. "We can't keep running," Steele asserted in the dimly lit war room, addressing his senior staff and the newly formed civilian militia leaders. "It's time we take the fight back to them." Dr. Elena Winters, who had been leading the research on captured Thalna technology, approached with promising news. "Captain, we've made a breakthrough with the alien tech. I believe we can modify our weapons to be more effective against their armor." Steele's eyes lit up with a spark of hope. "Good work, Doctor. Let's get those upgrades to our units as soon as possible." In the makeshift armory, engineers and scientists worked alongside soldiers, retrofitting weapons with alien technology. Sparks flew, and machines hummed in a symphony of wartime innovation. Meanwhile, Steele organized a meeting with his tactical advisors and the leaders of the civilian militia. "We need to hit them where it hurts. We've located a Thalna command center established in what was once Chicago. Taking it down will disrupt their operations and give us a window to strike more targets." Commander Franklin, now acting as Steele's right hand, pointed out on the digital map the multiple entry points for a coordinated attack. "We'll need precise timing and perfect execution. Every squad must know their part." As plans crystallized, Steele prepared to address the entire resistance force. The underground hangar, filled with hundreds of anxious fighters, fell silent as he took the stage. "Today we start taking our planet back," Steele began, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. "You all have been chosen not just to fight, but to stand for all humanity. This is our time to show that we will not go quietly. We strike at dawn." The crowd erupted in cheers, their morale boosted by Steele's confident demeanor and the prospect of turning the tide. Early the next morning, resistance fighters, equipped with newly upgraded weapons, launched a series of coordinated strikes. In Chicago, amidst the ruins of skyscrapers, Steele led one of the assault teams personally. As they approached the Thalna command center, stealth was replaced by the roar of gunfire. Steele, alongside Sergeant Collins and a squad of elite fighters, breached the outer defenses using a combination of guerrilla tactics and brute force. Inside the command center, the resistance fighters encountered stiff resistance from the Thalna troops. But the newly upgraded Earth weapons proved their worth, tearing through alien armor previously thought impervious. After intense fighting, Steele's team reached the central hub, planting explosives around key structural points. "Move out," Let's blow this place and get back to our lines, Steele ordered, the building rumbling from the impending detonation. The resistance fighters barely made it out before the command center erupted in a massive explosion, its destruction a significant blow to the Thalna control over the region. Back at the base, the successful mission was met with jubilation. Dr. Winters greeted Steele with a mix of relief and admiration. "You did it, Marcus. This is the turning point." Steele, looking over the cheering crowd, felt a surge of pride but knew this was just the beginning. "We've shown them we can hit back. Now, we prepare for the next phase. This war is far from over." The aftermath of the destruction of the Thalna Command Center marked a significant turning point for humanity's resistance. Under the leadership of Captain Marcus Steele, and with the technological innovations from Dr. Elena Winters, the human fighters were now more than mere survivors. They were a formidable force ready to challenge their alien oppressors. In the weeks following their victory in Chicago, Steele and his advisors planned a series of rapid, guerrilla-style strikes against Thalna positions across the globe. Using the underground tunnels and recovered alien transports, they could move quickly and strike unexpectedly, keeping the Thalna forces off balance. "All right, team, listen up," Steele began, addressing his unit commanders in the war room. "We've managed to capture some of their communication devices. We now have valuable intel on their supply routes and patrol patterns." Commander Franklin nodded, analyzing the data streaming on the screen. "If we hit these supply depots here, here, and here," he pointed out on the map, "we can cut off their support for weeks, maybe longer." Dr. Winters chimed in, her voice steady. "I've also upgraded our EMP devices. They should be able to disable their crafts without damaging the onboard tech. We can salvage it for our use." Steele approved the plan with a firm nod. "Execute the attacks within the next 48 hours. Disrupt, dismantle, and disappear before they can regroup." The operations unfolded with precision. In the dead of night, Steele's squads infiltrated Thalna supply depots in Asia, Africa, and South America. The raids were swift. EMPs disabled alien crafts, explosives destroyed supplies, and small arms fire handled any resistance. Sergeant Collins led one of the raids. As they breached the perimeter of a depot, he signaled his team to move forward. "Quietly, take out the guards and plant the charges. We're ghosts here." The guards were subdued, and the explosives were set without raising an alarm. As they exfiltrated, Collins detonated the charges, and the night sky was briefly illuminated by the fire of burning alien resources. Meanwhile, Steele coordinated the overall effort from a mobile command center. Each successful raid was marked on the map, a growing testament to their resilience and ingenuity. After the series of successful strikes, Steele convened a meeting with his top advisors and Dr. Winters. "We've struck significant blows, but we need to keep the pressure up. What's our next target?" Dr. Winters suggested. "Their air superiority has been a major problem for our ground forces. If we could take down one of their air command ships, it would drastically reduce their effectiveness in theater." Franklin looked up from his tablet, where he'd been reviewing satellite images. "There's an air command ship stationed over the Pacific. It's heavily guarded, but with a coordinated attack using our new anti-air missiles, we might have a shot." Steele contemplated the risky maneuver. "It's a gamble, but one that could pay off handsomely. Prepare the missiles and pull together a strike team. I'll lead this one personally." The planning was meticulous. Resistance fighters from around the world were brought in, briefed, and rehearsed for the mission. The night of the attack, Steele was in the cockpit of one of the commandeered alien crafts, leading the assault. As they approached the command ship, anti-air missiles streaked across the sky, a beautiful yet terrifying ballet of destruction. The command ship took direct hits and began to falter. "Board it! Let's make sure it's out of commission for good," Steele ordered, his voice resolute over the comms. Steele and his team boarded the crippled alien command ship, ready to deliver a crippling blow to the Thalna air superiority, symbolizing not just a tactical win, but a significant psychological victory for humanity. The risky operation to board and disable the Thalna air command ship was underway. Captain Marcus Steele led his team through the burning corridors of the alien vessel, their path illuminated by flickering emergency lights and the glow of fires that consumed the advanced technology around them. "Keep your eyes sharp," Steele whispered into the radio, leading his squad deeper into the heart of the ship. "Our intel suggests the control room is 2 decks up. We disable the ship's systems there and we gain a massive advantage in the skies." The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning electronics. The squad encountered light resistance, quickly subdued by their precise and well-coordinated attacks. Each member of Steele's team was chosen for this mission based on their skills and their proven courage under fire. Dr. Elena Winters, back at the Resistance's makeshift command center, monitored the progress of the mission anxiously. She was in constant communication with Steele, providing him with technical advice on how to disable the ship's power core once they reached the control room. Meanwhile, Commander Franklin managed the broader battle from Earth. He coordinated the remaining Resistance forces to take advantage of the chaos this attack would cause in the Thalna ranks. All units, the command ship is being neutralized. Push forward, reclaim our skies. On board the alien vessel, Steele and his team reached the control room. The door was sealed, but that wasn't a problem for long with the explosives they had brought along. After a controlled blast, they breached the room, confronting a squad of Thalna soldiers who were hastily attempting to defend their ship. A fierce firefight ensued. Steele moved with lethal precision, each move calculated to bring them closer to their objective without unnecessary risks. Once the last of the Thalna soldiers fell, Steele approached the central console, his hands moving over alien symbols translated by a device Dr. Winters had provided. Marcus, you need to place the EMP device directly on the core's interface. It will disrupt their entire power grid, Winters instructed over the comms. Copy that, Elena, Steele replied, securing the EMP device where she had instructed. He then gave the order to retreat. All teams, move to extraction points. This ship will be dark in 3 minutes. As they evacuated, the device activated, sending a surge that darkened the ship and left it adrift. The successful mission sent shockwaves through Thalna strategic positions as their air support vanished, leaving their ground forces vulnerable and disoriented. Back on Earth, Resistance fighters cheered as they saw several Thalna aircraft plummeting from the sky, disabled by the lack of command and control. Steele's squad returned to the planet, greeted as heroes by their fellow soldiers and the liberated civilians. Today we've turned the tide, Steele addressed the gathered crowd upon their return. But our fight continues. We must use this victory as a stepping stone to greater successes. Let's get ready to take back our planet, one battle at a time. As celebrations erupted around him, Steele stepped aside with Dr. Winters. We should prepare for their counterattack. They won't take this loss lightly. You're right, Winters agreed, her eyes reflecting both the fire of determination and the fatigue of relentless conflict. I'll start working on enhancements for our defenses. We've got to be ready. With the skies now open, humanity's resistance could now coordinate larger, more effective operations against the Thalna. The balance of power was shifting, but Steele knew that the war was far from over. They had won an important battle, but the war for Earth's freedom still raged on. After securing control of the skies, Captain Marcus Steele and the human resistance felt a surge of momentum. They quickly capitalized on the Thalna's momentary disarray to launch a series of coordinated assaults across various global fronts. Each victory not only reclaimed parts of Earth, but also boosted the morale of the beleaguered human forces. In the war room buried beneath the ruins of an old military base, Steele reviewed the latest reports with his senior staff. We've pushed them back in several sectors. It's time to consolidate our gains and prepare for the next phase, he declared, his voice resonant with authority and determination. Commander Franklin, overseeing the troop deployments, added, We've managed to surround their main ground force in the Amazon basin. If we strike now, we could deal a critical blow. Steele nodded in agreement. Prepare the troops. I want a full-scale offensive. We end their ground presence once and for all. As the human forces mobilized, Dr. Elena Winters approached Steele with an update on the latest technological enhancements. We've improved our drone fleet with the alien tech. They're ready to provide support for the ground troops. Also, our cyber team has managed to crack more of their communication codes. We can listen in real time and disrupt their orders. Excellent work, Elena. Let's use every advantage we have, Steele responded, his strategic mind already plotting the best use of these new tools. The battle in the Amazon was fierce. The dense jungle became a chaotic battleground as human soldiers, supported by drones and guided by intercepted communications, clashed with the entrenched Thalna forces. The aliens, though technologically superior, found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn by the guerrilla tactics perfected by the humans over months of relentless warfare. Steele himself was in the thick of the action, leading a crucial charge to break through the alien defenses. Push forward, he yelled over the roar of gunfire and explosions, his presence on the front lines inspiring his troops to fight with renewed vigor. Meanwhile, Sergeant Collins directed an aerial drone strike that obliterated a key Thalna stronghold, opening a gap in their defensive line. Now's our chance. All units, advance. Collins commanded, coordinating the attack with precision born of hard-earned battle experience. The turning point came when human forces captured a Thalna commander, gaining valuable intelligence on their remaining capabilities and deployment strategies. This information allowed Steele to execute a pincer movement that trapped the main alien force between two human divisions. As night fell over the Amazon, the sounds of battle faded, replaced by the victorious cheers of human soldiers. The Thalna forces, decimated and demoralized, surrendered en masse, marking a significant turning point in the war. Back at headquarters, Steele and his commanders assessed the aftermath. This victory is decisive, but we must remain vigilant. The Thalna will not give up their claim on Earth easily, Steele cautioned, already anticipating the enemy's next moves. Around Steele, the room buzzed with activity as reports continued to come in, each one a testament to the resilience and ingenuity of the human spirit. The battle for Earth had swung in humanity's favor, but the war was still far from over. Steele knew the hardest part might yet come as they prepared to bring the fight beyond their own planet, to ensure such an invasion could never happen again. After the decisive victory in the Amazon, Captain Marcus Steele knew that to prevent future conflicts, humanity had to take the fight directly to the Thalna. The objective was clear: strike at their homeworld to disable their ability to wage war and ensure Earth's safety. The plan was audacious, but Steele, along with his advisors, knew it was necessary. Dr. Elena Winters had been working tirelessly on adapting a captured Thalna spacecraft for human use. "We've modified this ship to be undetectable by their sensors. It's your best shot at getting there without being blown out of the sky," she explained to Steele as they walked through the hangar housing the alien craft. Steele nodded, inspecting the sleek, ominous vessel. "And the crew?" "I've selected a team of our best, pilots, engineers, soldiers, and 2 of our top linguists in case you need to communicate," she replied. The mission began under the shroud of darkness. Steele and his hand-picked team launched in the stolen Thalna ship, slipping through the enemy's defensive net thanks to the modifications Winters had implemented. The journey to the Thalna homeworld was tense, with every member of the crew aware of the stakes. Upon arrival, they found a planet much different from Earth. Vast deserts interspersed with massive industrial complexes rather than natural features. "Looks like they sacrificed their own planet for the war machine," mused Lieutenant Harrow, Steele's second-in-command. Their target was a massive military installation rumored to house the central command for the Thalna's interstellar operations. As they approached, Steele's team used the stolen ship's weapons to disable the base's communications array, cutting it off from the rest of the planet. With the element of surprise on their side, Steele and his squad infiltrated the facility. They encountered stiff resistance, but the human soldiers, hardened by months of grueling warfare, were relentless. The corridors of the installation echoed with the sounds of gunfire and alien shouts. Steele led his team towards the main control room, each member covering the others with practiced precision. Upon reaching the control room, they were confronted by the Thalna commander, a towering figure clad in ornate armor. Steele stepped forward, his weapon aimed. "End this war. Surrender your forces or we disable your ability to wage war forever," he demanded, his voice steady. The Thalna commander, realizing the futility of resistance and the determination of the humans, finally nodded in acquiescence, deactivating the planetary defenses and signaling a general surrender. With the mission accomplished, Steele's team exfiltrated with the Thalna commander in custody, leaving the disabled facility as a message to any who would threaten Earth again. Upon returning, Steele presented the Thalna commander to the United Nations, now reformed as a global coalition for defense and peace. "This marks the end of their threat," Steele announced, addressing the assembly. "But let it also mark the beginning of a new era where Earth stands ready to defend its peace with vigilance." Humanity had not only survived the invasion, but had also proven capable of defending itself against any future threats. Captain Steele, once a soldier in a desperate struggle, had become a symbol of Earth's newfound strength and unity. The final chapter of humanity's war against the Thalna opens with Captain Marcus Steele standing before a massive crowd in what was once a devastated city square, now the site of a grand ceremony marking the end of the conflict. The ruins had been cleared, and in their place stood new constructions, symbols of humanity's resilience and capacity to rebuild. "We've fought hard to reach this day," Steele began, his voice amplifying across the gathered masses. "Our victory was not preordained. It was earned through the courage, the ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit of every man, woman, and child who stood up in defense of our world." Behind him, flags representing nations from around the globe fluttered in the wind, a reminder of the unity that had been forged in the fires of war. Dr. Elena Winters stood among the dignitaries, her work having been crucial in turning the tide of the war. As Steele continued, he shifted his focus to the future. Today, we begin a new chapter in our history. The threat from the Thalna is over, but our journey forward is just beginning. We must use the lessons of this war to build a better future for all of humanity. The speech was broadcast globally, watched by billions who took to the streets in their own towns and cities to celebrate and reflect. The sense of global camaraderie was palpable, a shared triumph over a common foe that had once seemed invincible. Following the celebrations, Steele returned to his duties, now more focused on reconstruction and diplomacy than on warfare. Under his leadership, Earth began to forge alliances with other civilizations, using the technologies gleaned from the war to enhance peace and prosperity rather than aggression. Dr. Winters led a new scientific council tasked with integrating alien technology in ways that benefited civilian life, from energy production to medical advancements. Her team worked closely with environmental groups to ensure that Earth's ecosystems, severely impacted by the war, were restored and preserved. In the months that followed, cities rose from the ashes, each one designed to be sustainable and resilient. Education and cultural exchange programs flourished, fostering a sense of global citizenship that transcended old borders and conflicts. Steele, ever vigilant, oversaw the creation of a new defense initiative. This was not merely a military force, but a comprehensive security effort that included space monitoring systems, rapid response units, and, importantly, a diplomatic corps dedicated to preventing conflicts through dialogue and mutual understanding. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the memorial, Steele reflected on the path that had led them here. "We have proven ourselves capable of great destruction and great compassion," he mused. "Let us choose the latter as the legacy of this war." With humanity united and stronger than ever, the future looked bright, a testament to their indomitable will and their capacity to adapt and thrive in the face of adversity. Earth was not just a survivor of the galaxy's conflicts, but a beacon of hope for a peaceful and prosperous future.